Everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the second Thoughtful Thursday. Those of you that joined last week, it was the intro. Hey, Jasmine. So it was the intro, and which was really just about me, about the brand, how I got to be here. It was really long, so those of you that stuck out and watched the whole thing, thank you so much. I promise they're not all gonna be this long. Tonight, I really wanted to go through, actually in the next series of these, I wanted to go through the different values that are at the core and the heart of my brand. So tonight, I really wanted to talk about inner self-care. And self-care, as we know it, it's become really popular, which is awesome. Health and wellness is becoming really interesting to people. They want to feel good. They want to do things that are going to make them feel good on the inside out. And for me, self-care, it's really not so much about an external thing, but it's really about a way that you treat yourself. It's really about an inner self-care. And for me, this is the foundation of what I think is true wellness, is the mental health, the mental, the connection with your mind, how you're treating yourself, how you're loving yourself. And so what do I mean by that? I mean fostering a genuine relationship with yourself that is more than just sort of an external thing or external factors. So, and I wrote things on a piece of paper so I could be really focused. So, okay. So for me, like I said, this inner self-care is about cultivating a relationship with ourselves. And this relationship can be, ideally, there's compassion. And what does it mean to have compassion in our relationship with ourselves? Hold on, I'm gonna be honest, there's a cat at the door and I need to let the cat in because it's meowing and it's really distracting me, so hold on. Come. Okay, here we go. There's a cat in the room. Okay, ooh, okay. So, the inner self-care, cultivating the compassion. What does that mean? When I really think about what that means, I almost imagine myself as a child, as treating ourselves as children, and having compassion for ourselves like we would a child. So if a child is having a bad day, or a child is feeling upset, or a child is misbehaving, we might get upset, but we wouldn't nearly treat them or speak to them the way that we might treat and speak to our own selves. So having this compassion for ourselves, where we really see ourselves and connect with that inner child, where we have patience, where if some days we're having a bad day, or if we act in ways that we're not proud of, then we can have patience, and again, that compassion, and be okay with the process, with the journey. The relationship, a relationship that's nurturing. So how can we be nurturing with ourselves? To me, nurturing is actually even more action oriented. So how can we do things that are nurturing? So I'll give you an example from my own experience of how I practiced inner self-care the other day. I was supposed to be, I had just gotten out of a therapy session, and as I mentioned on a live stream, a live video several weeks ago, I have not been in talk therapy in like 5 years. So it's been really emotional for me, just in my body, to speak about things that, I don't know, I guess I thought I was over them, but my body is feeling a lot when I talk about them. So I had just left therapy, and I was supposed to be going to ship things. So I was supposed to just move right from this vulnerable space into work mode. And I got out of this appointment and went to ship the items, and I was completely overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by my emotions. I was overwhelmed by the people around me. I actually shipped things out of, my mother has a business, so I was around family and I was overwhelmed, and I just took a deep breath and I said to myself, Jen, we need to go. We need to go. We need to go home. We need to just take some space. And so whereas in the past, I might have just pushed through and not had that moment to kind of slow down and honor what I was feeling, I made that decision to really honor the emotions I was feeling and pull myself out of the situation and go home. And I journaled a bit, I took a bath, I lit some candles. I just kind of sat in what I was feeling and allowed myself to be there. And so that's really what I mean by this inner self-care, is really providing care for what's going on in our sort of internal landscape. And that's really hard to do because we live in a world where everything can be really like action oriented or success driven. Am I right? Do we feel that way? Like, I feel that way. I feel a lot of pressure. And so for me to even make that decision to just stop what I thought I had to do, what I technically had to do, what I had to do for my business, and then do something for me was scary and was uncomfortable, but ultimately was what I needed to do. And so I guess it's tricky to know when we are taking the time to cater to our emotions and what we need versus being, giving ourselves excuses, right? So like, how can we honor what we need versus like making an excuse? Like, I just don't want to do the work today. I don't want to ship things today. You know, it could have been perceived like that. But for me, it was not that. It was, I could not be in that situation. It was not comfortable. It was not right. I wasn't going to be productive. I was going to infuse into the products I was shipping this like anxiety. So I knew I needed to step back and do that. And so I share this with you because I offer a real life example from my own like experience that I hope can inspire you to maybe throughout your day, if there are moments where you can give yourself what you need, or maybe not. Maybe you're at work and you can't just leave. Please don't tell your boss you watched this video and Jen said leave work. No. Maybe you can't leave, but maybe when you go home, you can get out the journal, do what you need to do to really process whatever you need to process. I don't know what it is for you. And another thing I'll say is that it's going to be different every day. Some days you don't need all of that extra care. Some days you need more care. It's kind of just tuning in and going with what you need and being really honest with yourself. And that is it's simple, but it's very difficult because it can be easier to just want to distract ourselves and maybe not kind of cope with or face what is really going on. Does anyone feel that way? I know. I mean, I spent a lot of my life running from how I was feeling. I actually ran so far that I was literally pulled back. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, yeah, Enzo says very true. Enzo was with me, if you don't mind me blowing up your spot, Enzo was with me at the boarding school. So tapping back to the last video. So like we literally, and I'm sure I'm not alone, had to be kind of pulled back because we were running from how we were feeling. And I think that it's really common, and there's no shame around it. I think it's just hard to really sit with what we're feeling. So, okay, back to my sheet. Let me see. I just want to make sure that I touch upon everything that I wrote here. Really, again, one of, like, I guess one of the most foundational values for me is this self-connection, this inner self-care. Self-care, again, as it is perceived today, it can be seen as more of an external thing. So like how, maybe like drinking juice or holding crystals or using oils, even using products. I create products and it's all beautiful. But I think there's an additional element, an even more foundational element that is so important to the self-care that we can't just, or we can, but that I feel like it's so important that self-care is really about the tuning in. I hope this made sense. I was a little distracted in the beginning because of the cat. Next week will be much more focused, I hope. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be here next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, anything you didn't like, please send me a message. I will answer you. And yeah, thank you so much and have a wonderful night.